Hey everybody, this is Casey Campbell with Buffalo Wabs and the Price Hill Hustle, and you are listening to the Show Me Music podcast.
Well, I ain't home now, but I will be. When I knock upon your door and you heal me from those hard times, from those heartaches, them nasty turns it took for me. I hope it's not too late to roll you, rest upon your breast. I might not be too good at most things I do. Oh, I'm the very best at missing you. I am the very best at missing you. But I got no answer for my wonder. In lonely nights I stay up pondering, lonely drinking, slowly sinking. A million miles from you, what was I thinking? Hope it's not too late.
Welcome to the Show Me Music podcast, live from the Barn Studios in Southeast Missouri. We are joined by Casey Campbell of Buffalo Wabs and the Price Hill Hustle. Casey, how are you?
Hey Chad, I'm doing well. How are you doing, man?
Doing good. Where you at right now?
I am in my basement in my home just north of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati boy, and it seems like there's something in the water over there.
That's what I've been hearing, man. It's pretty rad seeing all of the art coming from this region over the last decade or so. I feel fortunate to be part of it. Truly, I was born and raised in Alabama, but I've been in Cincinnati for about 20 years now, and so it's something special to be part of a community like this.
Yeah, and I've actually saw on YouTube where you've been able to sing the national anthem at a Reds game. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, I've performed. I've done several different Reds games over about the course of the last 7 or 8 years. Done Reds games. I've sung at the Cincinnati Cyclones, our local hockey team in the East Coast Hockey League, and have had the chance to do the tennis tournament here as well, the Western and Southern Tennis Open. So, I've got kind of into the sports side of it, which I'm a fan of all of it anyway, but it's pretty cool to perform on the field for sure.
You've been a performer and a musician and traveling musician for a number of years now, it seems. Is something like that a little unnerving for you? Does it rattle you? Is there a certain performance or a show that makes you a little bit more nervous than some of the rest?
Well, yeah, I mean, the size of the audience and the scope of doing some of those things is pretty nerve-wracking. I do remember the first time I did one of the Reds games, and it was actually one of the better years over the last decade or so, and it was the last Sunday of the regular season, and so it was a sold-out crowd. And I want to say Great American holds like 47,000, 48,000 people, something like that. And so that first time was especially kind of daunting. I also got to sing at a NASCAR race, actually down in Kentucky, several years ago. And that's probably the largest single audience I've ever personally sung in front of. I want to say that they were saying something like 80,000+ people there at the race.
Wow.
And, I mean, just knowing the scope of what you're doing, I mean, it definitely kind of gets to you a little bit, but I guess ultimately they're all the same. I mean, I get jitters before just about every show. It's just kind of the nature of the beast for me. So, but being on the field down there at Great American, that's kind of a really unique perspective and sort of sets you in your place a little bit. But it's pretty exhilarating, to be honest with you.
So it's kind of interesting because several months ago, we interviewed Arlo McKinley, one of my favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from Cincinnati as well. And he actually got to sing the national anthem, I think, at some point, too. Did an awesome job, by the way. Both you guys did. Both Cincinnati boys. And, you know, we're from the St. Louis area, so we're Cardinals fans, obviously. So we won't hold that too much against you.
Fair enough.
Reason I bring it up is you're actually coming to St. Louis, and you have a couple Missouri shows coming up here in a few days.
We do. Yeah, we're really privileged to go hit the road for several dates with John R. Miller and his band. He's one of my personal favorites right now as far as songwriters and performers. I think he's writing a song about as good as anybody in the country right now. And so we're really, really excited to be hitting Missouri and over to Kansas. And so we're getting a little bit of y'all's area under our belts. It's been a while since we've been in the St. Louis area, and especially teaming up with John R. is pretty special. I think we do well together. It's kind of two different shows, but very similar in nature, and it should be some really fun nights of music.
And I've been a fan of Buffalo Wabs for, you know, several years now, but I've never had the chance to see you guys. You know, if somebody hasn't seen you, what can we expect?
You can expect us to bring just about as much energy as the audience will allow us to. I think one thing that we really pride ourselves on as a 4-piece band is the level of energy and connectivity we really strive for every show. I'm sort of the spokesman for the band, even on stage. I do most of the talking, and really just kind of try to curate an experience with the music. You know, I mean, all music in some form is storytelling, some true, some not, of course. But, you know, storytelling, I think, is best when it's almost an interactive experience. And to get people to engage and kind of let them know our story a little bit as the night goes on really helps us in providing a very entertaining and kind of rounded show. And one thing that I love, and I think people will really enjoy, they seem to live, is we switch around instruments a good bit between 4 of us. There's a multitude of arrangements that we can pull off with just 4 of us. And I think that is a really cool thing. I've always enjoyed that out of bands when I go somewhere live and you see people kind of flipping around and changing up the sound within just a set number of people. And so St. Louis can definitely expect some of that. And we're going to bring our A game as we try to every single night.
You know, researching this and knowing what I do about you guys, you know, I kind of wrote down here as Casey Campbell, singer, songwriter, drummer, actor, multi-instrumentalist. I mean, you got too many titles, I think, or maybe not. What else could we add to that? Do you produce? Do you engineer?
Yeah, I actually do produce. I helped produce an album for some really good buddies of mine out of Kentucky called The Wine Tree. Some great kind of soft, introspective acoustic music. So I have done a little bit of producing. Engineering, not so much, to be honest with you. I fiddle around with it on my own, but I leave that stuff to the professionals. But yeah, I went to school originally for acting, but music has always been sort of a thing. I started playing saxophone when I was a kid, and actually played jazz all through college on scholarship. So I did like big band and combo music for a long time before I got into kind of folk and, you know, American roots music. And then taught myself drums for this band. So I've added that to the repertoire. Yeah. And now I've been doing it for almost 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. That resume is getting kind of lengthy, I guess.
I'm trying, you know, I've always some people do it for fame and fortune. I do it to try to just work in the profession that I love and, you know to do. It's the thing, you know, when I wake up and have to think about something to help put money in my pocket and pay the bills, it's what I do. And so I feel very fortunate to do that. And I remember a friend of mine many years ago, you know, he always said, if you can just stick around the business, even if you have to put on a different hat, you know, that especially in the acting world, a lot of people kind of get, you know, tagged as just, I do this one thing. But I've never been one of those guys. I don't mind stepping out of my own comfort zone to stay within the business that I want to be a part of. And performing has been the same way. You know, I still do some acting, and I'll perform. I have a solo band that I carry around sometimes and do, you know, various other material that I write. I've been fortunate enough to take that project to Europe and to the West Coast. And so, you know, performing's the same way. If I can stay active, that's the goal. And if you're always active, then you stay out of trouble at least, so.
Join here with Casey Campbell of Buffalo Wabs and the Price Hill Hustle. Going to be at Off Broadway in St. Louis, Missouri, January 20th. Doors are at 7, shows at 8. Show Me Music podcast is going to be there. We talk about the acting, and I think a lot of people know that you're in a lot of Tyler Childers videos.
The Tyler videos are probably some of the biggest stuff I've done to date. I've done some smaller things around here and used to do a lot of stage acting, but it's been many years since I've done theater in that way. So doing the film and doing the videos for Tyler has been a real treat.
And how did that come about?
Tyler is a part of Whiz Bang Booking and Management, which is our management group as well. And so first got to know him, 8 years ago or so, when he was just coming up. And Wabs, our front man of Buffalo Wabs, that's Matt Wabnitz. He started a festival here in Cincinnati called the Whispering Beard Folk Festival. Started it back in 2008. And I'm one of the directors and the MC for that festival. And so we had Tyler back about 3 years in a row, I think, in like 14, 15, 16, right as he was gaining a little steam. So we became friends. And then in 2019, right as he had signed his first contract, like his first big contract, and was getting ready to do those videos, unbeknownst to me at the time, but we had a float in the opening day parade, the Major League Baseball opening day parade here in Cincinnati, which is a huge deal.
Oh, cool.
Has been for a long time. And they get hundreds of thousands of people come out and line the streets for that. And so the festival had a float in the parade that year, and Tyler was performing a 2-night stand here in town. And I talked him and the food stamps into being on the float with us. And so I did my whole, MC spiel in a white tuxedo with red sequins and my top hat, and, marching down the street and just kind of playing, like carnival barker for that. And I think maybe it just put a little idea in his head that, I could be a pretty good character. And then several weeks after that, I got a call from management that said, "Hey man, we got something we want to talk to you about." And the fact that I've been a recurring character now in however many videos it's been is pretty unreal. It's like I said, it's a real treat. It's some of the most fun I've ever had.
And his career is just like skyrocketed, right? I mean, he's one of the biggest artists on the planet right now, it seems like.
Oh, buddy, he went to the moon for sure. I mean, it's, for good reason. I mean, he's been able to connect with people through his songs like very few people are these days, and is a super genuine dude. And it's been a real honor to help kind of put some narrative behind some of those songs and some of these kind of crazy videos we've been doing.
Does that make you optimistic about maybe the future of music, where sometimes we go through spouts where it doesn't feel all that optimistic, especially if you listen to the radio, which I don't, but does that make you optimistic on kind of where we're headed?
I would say so. It's something, getting involved in this community. I mean, the nationwide community of sort of independent, small operation kind of singer, songwriters, bands, performers. Getting involved in this community has really opened my eyes to the caliber of music that's out there. And I think it's something that, a lot of people have always known, especially pre-internet days. It was a little harder to kind of try to dig into some stuff. You had to hope to catch somebody live or to catch a mixtape if it was getting passed around or something like that to find new artists.
Right.
I think that's one thing that internet and like shows like yours, podcasts that are, promoting local and regional material when it's coming through. I think those kind of resources are a huge boon for people that are doing their honest representation of their music and their emotions and the songs that they write and getting them out there. I do feel optimistic. I feel like you have a better chance of connecting these days with people who are going to get it. Stardom is one thing, and Tyler's, like, people like Tyler, that's an anomaly still, for sure, just because of the amount of, exposure that you get. But it is kind of reassuring to know that you don't have to have hundreds of millions of people to be successful. You know what I mean? Like, success is always very relative, but I mean, I can make a good, honest living playing to crowds like we're going to see in St. Louis, and doing that as much as we can across the country. And you always hope for something bigger to help you get in front of more people. But there's also a lot more opportunity now. I mean, you see shows like Yellowstone, and you see shows that are putting in, these unknown artists that suddenly give you a big pop of exposure and help you just get your music out to that many more people. And so it is very optimistic, I think. And I think that there's music for every taste, for everybody out there. I mean, if you can't find somebody outside of the top 40 radio, then you're just not looking hard enough, because it's all out there to, waiting to be found.
Can I tell you my story of how I got into you guys a few years ago?
Oh yeah, please.
So it was by accident. So I am a big fan of Willie T. Taylor. And,
oh yeah.
And so I just hop on Spotify, and I want to, one of my favorite songs is The Very Best. So I just type in The Very Best, and you guys pop up. I'm like, well, what is this? And I listened to it, and I fell in love with it. Then I listened, and that's kind of, I'm sure I'm not the only one, right? So then I listened to another song and listened to another song, but it was sort of by chance. It was sort of by accident where I was able to find you guys.
It's happened to me for years, listening to, internet radio, back when Pandora was kind of the one to listen to. They'd put you on shuffle, and I would listen to 50 artists I'd never heard. Uh-huh. And there are many artists I found just like you were, just like you found us. I've found so many people that I've enjoyed listening to and have gotten to even meet them. And, guys like Willie T. I remember back about 9 years ago when we first got to know Willie T, actually through the festival I mentioned earlier, the Whispering Beard, we got turned on to his music just through the internet, listening to songs, and we're huge baseball fans. And so listening to, his baseball tunes, and then getting to meet him and just kind of developing that friendship and stuff. It all happened in the exact same way that you were talking about finding us. So I appreciate you taking a chance on us. You never know, a strange name pops up on a playlist, and sometimes you're like, who is this? And you click on it, and that can change your life musically. So I'm glad you found us.
Yeah, I am too. And we can't wait to see you January 20th at Off Broadway in St. Louis with John R. Miller. What a great show. I mean, come on. You're going to get your money's worth if you go after this one. You mentioned the baseball thing with Willie T, and I'll let you go here. I know your time's pretty limited. But it's funny you mentioned that, because we have a podcast network. We have several different podcasts under the Barn umbrella. And one of them is our sports podcast. And we actually named it Knuckleball Prime Time.
Unreal.
After Willie's song. So, and I've tried to get him on here, as an interview. So if you got a connection, hey, I definitely appreciate that. But yeah,
I bet we can make that happen. I think old Will would be more than happy to talk with you.
Great.
Especially talking baseball. Now you may have a hard time getting him to shut up. So. Well, but he'll talk music and baseball all day. So yeah, let's make that happen.
Oh man, I appreciate that. We'll be seeing you next Friday, January 20th at Off Broadway in St. Louis with John R. Miller, Buffalo Wabs, and the Price Hill Hustle. Casey, we appreciate your time today.
Hey Chad, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on. Truly.
All right, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Sounds good, brother.
I ain't home now, but I will be. And I knock on your door and you heal me from those hard times, from those heartaches. Them nasty turns it took for me. I hope it's not too late to roll you. Rest on your breast. I might not be too good at most things I do. Oh, I'm the very best at missing you. I am the very best at missing you. But I got no answer for my wonder.